Anecdotally, it sure seems like we hear about more people catching COVID recently. So how concerned should we be? Let's talk about it with the Chief Medical Executive for the state of Michigan, Dr. Natasha Bagdasarian, University of Michigan immunologist and author of the Pandemic Pondering blog, Dr. Jim Baker, and the acting chair of the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee, Dr. Arnold Monto. So I've got an all-star panel this morning, that's for sure. Dr. Bagdasarian, let me start with you. With symptoms less severe, hospitalizations are down. How close are we to being able to treat COVID like the seasonal flu?
Well, I just have to remind your viewers out there that the pandemic is not over, and we are not yet thinking about COVID in the same way that we're thinking about seasonal flu. We're still seeing a lot of unpredictability to our COVID-19 response cycle, which is a little bit different than what we see with other viruses that have really embedded themselves as being seasonal viral respiratory pathogens. And so we are still watching the data very closely. We're watching what's happening around the world, around the country, and we're paying very close attention to those variants of concern.
Yeah. Dr. Baker, if someone qualifies for a second booster, when should they get it? What's the best advice? Right now, with cases still on the lower end, or when we see a real jump up?
Well, I think what we need to understand is it's a different answer for many different people. If you have a younger person who's healthy and has already had another booster, I think they're fine right now. Elderly people, people who have serious lung disease or live in communal settings where they're at higher risk, I think they may want to go ahead. But I think in most cases, people can wait until the fall when we may either have a different variant or we have more proximity to an outbreak that we might expect in the winter.
Yeah. Dr. Monto, let me ask you, there was some movement this week on the vaccine for kids ages 5 to 11, and I know a lot of people are still wondering, when will kids under 5 be eligible? Where are we with that?
Well, this is a major step, especially for the under 5s. And it's going to take a meeting of our committee, the VRPAC, the advisory committee to the FDA. I think the situation with the third shots for the older children, 5 to 11, that's under consideration now. We're not sure how that's going to go, but I think the bottom line is we are developing a more long-term strategy. We had a meeting about a week ago of the VRPAC, not to vote on anything, but to discuss what is going to be going on in the future. And we're going to be moving to probably having a vaccine with its components closer to what's circulating. We may well have more than one variant in the vaccine, just to be sure that we hit the right target.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that, kind of targeting those independently. But let me ask you, we saw news yesterday on a new test, a breathalyzer type test. How close do you think that is to becoming reality?
Well, it seemed to be approved. At least I don't have direct evidence, but the texts I've been seeing say that it was actually approved.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of people who the testing can sometimes be cumbersome, so that's obviously a step forward. Dr. Bagdasarian, you mentioned it's important for people to know the pandemic just isn't over, and yet I'm sure as a public health official you deal with people who just want it to be over. They have that COVID fatigue. Where do we go from here? Where do you go in terms of trying to keep people aware of the current threat level?
Well, of course, we'd all want this pandemic to be over, but that is simply not a reality at the moment. And in fact, what we are seeing now is across the country, we are starting to see some movement that is likely due to BA2. We've been following closely what's been happening in places like Europe and Asia with the BA2 subvariant. And of course, the Northeast is now seeing increases in cases. And even in Michigan, there are quite a few regions that are seeing either plateaus or even slight upticks. And so we have to be ready here in Michigan for a likely uptick in cases due to the BA.2 variant. And I think that having communications like this are very important in reminding people that we are not done with the pandemic. And in fact, the next few weeks, we are looking at having some increased cases, and we're watching those very carefully. At the moment, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a sharp spike the way we saw with the last Omicron surge, but we are, again, looking ahead and predicting that we will see an increase in cases. And so that's why it's more important than ever to use those mitigation strategies, to make sure that you're vaccinated and boosted if you're eligible, to make sure that you are using tools that have been proven to be effective throughout this pandemic. So again, the pandemic isn't over, and I think having these conversations and reminding folks that that's the fact is really important.
Yeah. Dr. Baker, what's the message to those who have a fatalistic approach to this now, where they feel it's just inevitable that everyone's going to get COVID, I might as well get it over with?
Well, number one, I think we're in a very different position than we've been in before. If you look across the country, there's now evidence that half the population has already had COVID. They have antibodies that suggest they've already been infected. In addition, we now are reaching higher levels of vaccination in age group over 5, the people eligible. At least 80% of the population has 1 dose of the vaccine. So there's a lot of background immunity. I think the other thing they should remember is that we now have effective drugs. So as you pointed out, new screening tests are important because you can actually do this. You could take Paxlovid and really mitigate a lot of the symptoms and potentially avoid hospitalization. So we're in sort of a period when you can actually do things to prevent being ill if you get infected. So I think one of the good news things that's come out is that even though we're seeing a slight uptake in infections, and right now 85% of the infections in the US are due to the new BA variant, we aren't seeing an uptick in hospitalizations. And I think that's because we have effective tools to treat and prevent people from being infected. So don't lower your guard. If you think you're infected, test yourself, because there are options and ways to keep yourself from getting sick.
Yeah. Dr. Monto, I'll give you the last word here. In your expert opinion, where do we go from here? What's the one thing you think people need to know about where we stand in the pandemic right now?
I think, as we've just heard, people need to know that we do have solutions to the problem of COVID, that COVID is not the flu, especially in the past when everybody was susceptible. Now we have populations that are getting immunity either through infection, but more appropriately through vaccination. And we will have to live with this virus, but we've learned how to do this. And we have the vaccine, and we should follow advice about when to get revaccinated. It's an evolving issue because we don't know how the virus is going to behave going forward. But to remember that if you do, in spite of getting vaccinated, have what has been called a breakthrough infection, these infections are more likely to be mild, not always. And if the infection does seem to be a little more severe or you're in a risk category, remember there are drugs now available that are effective against the virus. So we've got our tools. We just have to use them and have people remember that they are available.
Yeah. Well, conversations like this are certainly helpful, and we appreciate all three of your opinions and expert advice this morning. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody.